Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah ta'ala wa barakatuh. Islamic Action TV, Gorilla Minded Productions, myself, Bilal Ali. You just want to drop a little something about the great man, the big man, Muhammad Ali, rahmatullah alayhi, or radiallahu anha, or may Allah be pleased with him and forgive him for his sins. But he's just passed recently, and we're here in the UK in Islamic Action Studios under the program production company, Gorilla Minded Productions, doing our thing. And I just want to, freestyle, or just give my thoughts and my reflections about Muhammad Ali as a boxer. People, like to say, he was more than a boxer, and that's obvious. That he was a statesman, that he was a, an influential individual, and probably the most famous person to ever reside on the planet, in our lifetime, in terms of knowing the four corners of the globe. But just bringing it back to the science, the sweet science of boxing, the science of hit and not be hit, of jab, of move, of uppercut, of left hook, of the cross, the science of the what do you call it, self-defense. So I believe that there's questions that are formulated, and I guess I'm open to question and comment.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa ta'ala wa barakatuh. Brother Bilal Ali Kida, thank you for your time. I'm really honored to be putting this question to you, because I know in your own history of yourself, you're speaking on a topic which you personally used to be involved in as a boxer yourself, as a person who was, perfecting the art and developing the art. So I'm truly honored to actually ask you these questions, because I know you're speaking not just as a Muslim and not just as someone who, had a love for Ali, but also someone who understands the technical abilities of boxing. Now, with that, without further ado, I'd like to ask you, he's being called the greatest boxer of all time. What are your views about this statement in terms of being the greatest boxer of all time?
Okay, so one of the things about this kind of question is it's very subjective. We just have to make it's not scientific. It's not a precise thing. It's very subjective, because you're going to be compared to people that, one, you never fought, two, people that fought at different weight classes. Because if you're talking about pound for pound, that means throughout the weight classes you're judging people's abilities. You're talking about people that fought in different eras, so there were different world titles. When, for example, when Muhammad Ali fought in his heyday, there was only one title. I believe it was either the WB or the WBC, and then one came after, and then you got the IBF, and now you got the WBO, and they just churning them out now. So it's like WWE wrestling now, where everybody's got a belt.
That's how white folks, isn't it, really?
You understand? Yes, they're just churning them out now, right? So it is easier now to be a world champion. But I mean, so I'm saying, pound for pound, you got people that will, whether you agree or disagree, I think they've got a right to put their name in the hat, say, no, I think I'm the best, because boxing is about being self-believing and egotistic. You have to be a certain level of egotisticalness has to reside in one to be a boxer. So if Floyd Mayweather, for example, says, well, I've beat more world champions than anybody else out there. I've won titles. I've been like a 15, I don't know what it is, something like 12-time world champion. You know what I'm trying to say? In 5 different weight classes. He's got a right to at least run up his mouth and put his name in the hat to claim that he's TBE. But you might not agree with it. But as an old-timer, I'm going to have to say, in all honesty, even as a Muslim, and I'm biased, but I'm going to say even as a Muslim, I've got to put Sugar Ray Robinson on a level of pound for pound.
Controversial.
You know what I'm saying? 5 middleweight titles, plus the welterweight titles he won, and over 100 fights, is over the amount of wins that he has, the amount of world title fights he's had, and plus of his knockout ratio, because he was known as a dancing master, but he was a vicious piece of work that used to put people on their back, you know what I'm saying? So on that level, the old timers do say that Sugar Ray Robinson is the best pound for pound. I'm going to bow to my elders in the sport, you know what I mean, and their wisdom and their knowledge after watching footage of him and following his career. However, in terms of being the best heavyweight boxer of all time, Ashe, you know what I'm saying? It's just like that for me, in the old biasness. Put him above the
I hear that, but maybe you talked about people throwing different boxes in the ring. What about using, once again, this is based on your technical knowledge again of the sport. We know that people like Jack Johnson in his heyday went up to 30 rounds.
Yeah.
And they was fighting when some of his fights was in sweltering heat.
Yeah,
fighting outside. Ali's fully in Manila, he collapsed almost at the end of it because of the heat. Now, we got 15 rounds. You've got judge referees. You've got a whole entourage of support for boxing nowadays. Yeah. Now, if you look at 1912 and 1908, when Jack Johnson's fighting, for example, and with all the racism and stuff, why would you not say someone like Jack Johnson, even perhaps someone like Rocky Marciano, who's undefeated boxer, right? Technically was a big hitter. Why would you say that these men don't pick Ali into this post of you saying the greatest? You said the greatest heavyweight boxer.
Yeah. No, fair question. Good question. I would look at Jack Johnson. I would say that Jack Johnson fought in a different era. So the rules were slightly, or it's Queensberry boxing, the rules were slightly different. Like say for example, you knock a man down, you didn't get an 8 count, stand up, rise, send to neutral corner, and then start again. You knock a man down, you can stand over him, and whereas he makes a shuffle to get up, you can put it on him straight away. So it's a slightly different rules, and this the rounds. But I mean, they did fight longer rounds. But Muhammad Ali showed 15 rounds moving, dancing master as a heavyweight that he had an engine on him. So I believe that you could have pit him in any era in terms of stamina, in terms of punch resistance, in terms of hand speed, footwork. I think he definitely would go beyond Jack Johnson. Not that Jack Johnson wasn't a super athlete and he had this defensive skill and his ability to dodge, because Jack Johnson learned from the racist. He was putting this thing called the Battle Royale. When they used to put the hood over the black kids and let them fight each other and knock each other out, and that's
James Brown
a way of humiliating him. He evolved out of that because he was so good. His defensive ability to slide on punches, because he mastered it from having a hood over his head and just using his kind of sixth sense, you can almost say. So Jack Johnson is no joke, and he's a legitimate all-time great. But I just feel like Muhammad Ali's foot speed, combined with his combination punching and the engine that he had on him, I would put him above Jack Johnson. Rocky Marciano, no disrespect, but all I can think about is the film Coming to America when Eddie Murphy said, every time they talk about boxing and a white man got to pull Rocky Marciano out there, jockstrap, or I can't remember the word that he used, but
yeah. But it's an Islamic channel, so
alhamdulillah. So yeah, but I think that Rocky Marciano was too small in size. I think that Muhammad Ali's hand, as I said, it was the foot speed, hand speed in his prime. I think that I looked at Rocky Marciano's record, and as Larry Holmes pointed out, Rocky Marciano was in his 20s knocking out guys in their mid-30s. You understand? So he didn't really fight too many people in their prime. I mean, look when he beat Joe Louis. Joe Louis was... It wasn't Joe Louis.
What?
That was Joe Louis's uncle. He was a guy that looked like Joe Louis, but balding. So, and actually, when I did some research on Joe Louis, Rocky Marciano, with all due respect, he was a tremendous fighter, but as I said, as a heavyweight, he was only 13 stone something. I mean, Muhammad Ali would have tied him up and took him for a walk, pushed him off, popped him with a jab. And the other thing as well is that he only had something like about 7 world title fights. Do you know what I'm trying to say to you? That's a small number of world title fights, to give a man.
But why is he still held as the standard still?
I think he's held as the standard for a few reasons. One of them is a legitimate reason. He was a heavyweight champion and he retired undefeated, which is quite unique in itself. So that does cause us to stop and look. He had a high knockout ratio. He did have a serious punch in that. Them kind of punches that when he banged a man, they didn't need you to get up off the floor. You got hurt and stayed hurt. You know what I'm trying to say to you? So on those legitimate grounds, he's worthy of mention. But there's other reasons. I think he's because he's a white guy as well. There's that part from the whole Rocky Marciano film and the whole Rocky movie and the whole
Italian.
You know what I'm saying? Because you have to remember that the heavyweight champion in boxing represents something symbolic. It represents the strongest man in the world. You can have cage fighters and say, oh, this person will beat the heavyweight champion, but that's in cage fighting. We're talking about a heavyweight weightlifter that will lift up how many bench press, how many kilos, or squat how many kilos, but it's a different type of strength that you're talking about. So it represents something like the strength of like a general.
Something innate.
You know what I'm trying to say to you? Yeah, something that is
primordial.
Very hard to articulate. And what do we say? It would beat any man in a fair fight. You understand? So it means if you knock a man down, he gets a chance to get up. Not the idea of why you jump on him and choke him out. That's a fight, but MMA is a different type of sport. Talking about a fair fight.
That's brilliant. That's fantastic. That's really opened my eyes to why you have got him as the greatest heavyweight of all time. Now we know, according to Angelo Dundee, his trainer, that when he came to the gym, he was perfection itself, or he was addicted to training to the gym. Obviously, sometimes he got a bit complacent and he didn't train as he had, but he was always training and working out. How important?
As a youngster, he was a gym rat. You know what they call a gym rat?
What's the gym rat?
Gym rat is something, the rat that live in the gym. So that's where the metaphor or the analogy of a gym rat. So they talk about Money Mayweather.
He was the first in and the last out.
First in, last out. I said Muhammad Ali when he was a kid, when he first came back from the Olympics and his rise, before the big fame and the too much and the whatever, the other distractions and other engagements where he had to kind of balance and work out. his training scheduled because he's public speaker, he's performing, he's here, he's there. But in his youth man days, on his rise, meteoric rise, gym rat straight, living
Okay,
the gym.
subhanallah. Okay, that's again very fascinating, very elucidating, enlightening, brother, and very edifying. Just to push the question out a bit more, I was going to then say, how important was the training in terms of Ali's being the person he was, like the discipline involved in the training, the discipline involved in being a Muslim. How could you marry the two? I knew when I first became Muslim, a brother who was in boxing, and his name was Muhammad. Before he became Muslim, he had the potential to be a good boxer, but he gave it up because he said personally, you can only have one religion. You can't be boxing is a religion. Boxing is in its own set of values and rules, folkways, mores. It's similar to Islam. It's not Islam, but a religion, because that is a religion.
It's a way.
But it's a way. It's a way of the world.
Code, man.
It's a code. Yeah. It's a Tao. So he said that he couldn't do two. So it's a double question, really. Is it possible to be the ultimate supreme boxer and still be a Muslim or religious person? And how important is the training in terms of the boxing training and the impact it has on if you are a religious person, like fasting or?
That's a really interesting.
So it's a question in two parts.
Yeah, two parts. No, I think that you can. I personally think you can marry two because he did. He clearly did marry the two, but I think it's horses for courses, different type of individuals. But I get what the brother's saying. The brother that you quoted is saying because boxing is really, we call it ritual. It's routine to ritual. You know what I'm saying? If you put on your right glove first, you know what I mean? You always gonna put on your right. You feel uneasy putting on your left glove first, or vice versa. They say we jab with the left first, so the old timers say left hand first. You know what I'm saying? People like to wear different color socks. Boxing, just use anything because it's all about what's in the mind. It's not really the person you're fighting. It's about you fighting your kind of lower nature, or your lower self, or the like they use it in mysticism, for example. They have rituals where they bury a person in a coffin and stuff. It's not to do witchcraft. It's to make the person conquer their own fears. Right.
Conquer
conquer
shadow,
themselves.
Shadow boxing.
Right. So the box is about conquering his own imagination. You understand?
His own fears.
So it's about the relationship with the mind, and obviously Islam can teach you how to discipline your mind, as well as the physical things of living clean and not eating swine, and not smoking, drinking, 30 days of fasting, no alcohol, no alcohol. Period. So there's certain things that would make it could be advantageous.
And you got the mutter and you got married. I mean, both of the forms of marriage, but these are Imam Ali said only the most wretched would not perform a form of marriage. Or make the relationship to the man and the woman halal.
No, that's right. So I think that you can marry the two, and I think that Muhammad Ali exemplified that. And not only that, I think that he brought something to the sport, which I think before people used to use the word sports psychology, or he developed it and evolved as a particular discipline and a particular science. I think that Muhammad Ali used sports psychology, what we call sports psychology, or what black people just call vibes. Because say, for example, Angelo Dundee. Boudini Brown.
Rumble, young man, rumble.
All those things, because boxing, remember, it can be very monotonous. You skip, go in, warm up, stretch, do your calisthenics, do your groundwork, then you do your sparring, you go for a month. But it's over. It's very repetitious. So it can be very boring, and a lot of people cut corners because of the mental strain, not just the physical strain, but the actual. God, can we do running tomorrow culture or whatever? But so I think. The way I look at it now, I'm trying to understand it as a qualified psychotherapist, is that he was actually, Boudini Brown, between themselves, they was creating a vibe to make training fun, to keep him motivated, finding different ways of keeping him upbeat so that he could actually.
Because I saw a documentary, he had these army boots that wore so many weights to build his ankles,
and running in sand.
And he would have a rubber suit underneath his, sweating it out, and he carry these little metal weights that he would carry. And he said for Boudini, he said he had to get him about 4 or 5 in the morning, the earliest. And he goes, these were the key elements that made him who he was. Because most boxers, this is a secret he went. Most boxers don't know all of this, but this is what makes him who he is.
Right,
and he goes, each boxer is different, isn't it? Because he said that according to him, Patterson was more of a quiet man, when he had to not, then he had to not be around women, and he had to just, he had to eat the right foods, and they had to lock him away from everywhere. Everything. Whereas Ali's a man that goes, he's like more
hype, he's excited, he's loud.
His
gym is packed with people, the cameras are there, whatever. Lots of people don't like that. They got to close the door to sparring, they got to close the door for this, close the door for that. Everybody's got their routine, everybody's got their ritual. But his thing is because he's a people person, it seems like it kept him more motivated, laughter in the gym or whatever. Gym's not, you know, the old time boxing gym is not the place for laughter and stuff.
Okay, so you answered those two very well. You quoted Tyson as talking about Ali in terms of his maybe as a boxer, maybe he might be more vicious than
Definitely.
than Tyson. Can you talk about the technicality of his jab and what is a left hand lead that we will hear about that he threw? And
right hand lead,
yeah. How important was his jab technically?
Yeah.
How vicious was he if he was more vicious than him? And what is this? Was it the right hand lead you said?
Yeah. No, two things.
And why was that? Why was this seen as like in that fight with Foreman?
Or controversial, or what's the word I'm getting? So creative.
Yeah.
So yeah, basically the reason why I would say that Mike Tyson, well, not I would say, but Mike Tyson said it himself. You can see that Ali's more vicious because his threshold clearly to withstand a beating, punishment, just to win a fight, is much more clearly higher than Mike Tyson's. I mean, like, you got to look like you're going to kill the man. You see that fight when he's an old guy, these Larry Holmes is pounding on him, but he wouldn't even go down. The trainer had to say,
I'm going to fight.
I'm the chief trainer. I'm going to call the fight because the guy, his threshold is just like unreal. You see him get off the floor in the last round of a 15-round fight when he gets knocked down by hard punching Joe Frazier.
Just to jump in there, but do you think that's do you think that's the very essence of what made black people survive slavery? That he can channel that, the fact that you go on a slave ship and then you get captured at first in Africa, then you survive 9 months on a slave ship, and then you go into the plantation itself, and you have to survive that hell. Then you still have to be trying to be human and project that. No, so there's something in the black man that once you beat, and even though you try to fall through 400 years of hell, everybody still wants to be black.
Right in the from the way of epigenetics.
And we brought Islam back. Islam was still they took us as Muslims and we never gave. So you think Ali embodied that as well in
he symbolized that. He embodied
to get
that.
beaten, to get this beating.
I'm loath to quote Stanley Crutch. Yeah, I'm loath to quote him, but he said one thing. He goes, I think that Muhammad Ali encapsulated the spirit of the Negro in America, or something of that nature. He said basically what he said was true, that encapsulates black people. Goes, he talks about the black, and I'm going to use it for the blacks of the diaspora, so I'm including the Central and South America, the Caribbean, Guatemala, all of it, wherever they're placed,
Mexico,
wherever black people had to survive and to thrive in the diaspora, and that's because he had the ability.
The ability.
That's a deep word. Yeah, the ability. That's a deeper level of ability.
But not nobility, but ability.
He had the ability to improvise, and that's been the black people's strength. That under whatever conditions they put us, we found a way to improvise. Because if we couldn't adapt, we would have been wiped out. The plan was to wipe us out. But getting back to
the technicality, the jabbing.
So he had one of because he's got a quick hand. So he had the fastest jab in the heavyweight division. So that's quite clear that he's one of the best jabbers and movers. That means building up points, cutting your opponent. The jab is used to measure your opponent. It's for timing. It's for a lot of different things. So
better than Lennox Lewis's jab, which is
definitely faster. Double it up, treble it up. Moving as well, moving an agile fight, and athletic moves that you only see at the lower weight classes. You don't see a man that's nearly 15 stone moving and twisting and showing those quick hands. It's very unusual. So that's why in them days that most of the fighters in the early part, you could just bamboozle them with just his speed of foot and hand. Just too devastating for them because they're just not used to a guy that's that big and strong to have to move like that. But the thing with the right hand lead is George Foreman, Rumble in the Jungle, 1974 or whenever it was, October 1974. The right hand lead, as you heard a few commentators say, basically, the jab is the first punch. You always lead with your jab, unless you're a street fighter necessarily. But it's in a brawler. You just don't jab. Because you're just trying to. But even in a brawler, your coach is still trying to, measuring with a jab before you put your power punches together. Your right cross or your left hook. And boxers work in milliseconds. So it takes longer for your right hand lead to land on an opponent, and it is seen as kind of disrespectful to land a right hand lead in the sense of
open you up more though. Does it open you up more?
It opens you up more to a counter, to the left hook, or to for a person to slide and give you a body shot or left hook over the top. So it's kind of seen as disrespectful. You're kind of almost implicitly, not over it, but you're implicitly saying this guy's slow. So what they say is that because that was one punch that Joe Frazier probably wouldn't have planned for.
Foreman.
George Foreman, Rumble in the Jungle. Going back to Kinshasa, to the motherland,
that's right, Ali Boumaye.
So that would have been a punch that he wouldn't have planned for, and that they said, I think watching the recording, that he threw something like about 11 in the first round.
Right hand lead.
Right hand leads.
Wow.
11. And he caught him with a few. 11. And there you go. And you see, he's a pioneer. So then you come back to the younger generation. You see people like Floyd Mayweather saying, you know, people like Muhammad Ali paved the way. What do you see Floyd Mayweather when he's what do you call it? Signature moves is like not just a shoulder roll when he turn sideways and catch the punch on his shoulder, but his other signature move is when he leans forward in a certain way, like he's leaning forward to tease you, and then when you throw a shot at him, he moves back and then throws a right hand lead. And he's famous for throwing his right hand leads, and he catches, you know, in his prime, he catch people with a right hand lead. But Muhammad Ali is the first boxer, you know, that would throw, not random, but, you know, throw continuous right hand leads in a fight or in a particular round. So he's like a kind of pioneer of a sweet science. So textbook teach you never to do that or shouldn't really do that. But he's that quick. Some fighters are quick, and reflex fighters they can.
Okay, mashallah. So we're going to tie things up now. In terms of the 3 years that he missed, what do you think the world missed?
That's the key question. It's hard to know because we will never know, and that's why we can't really. It's hard subjective, but it's hard to kind of work out the
place where he really
what
is.
Could he have accomplished in those in that period if he was.
Is it true that was there definitely his prime years?
I'd say that was his best athletic years. You know what I mean, like
as a boxer.
Yeah, you just reach. Imagine you just reaching your peak, just about to reach your peak. You get taken out of your peak, 3 years out, laid off, and then brought back in, back at that level. A quick warm up fight against Jerry Quarry or something like that, and then you brought back at that top level, that high level. You know what I'm saying? Against a good, solid, great heavyweight fighter in Joe Frazier. Not no chump. Not like no disrespect. Not like say a Tyson Fury or you get what I mean? Jim Joke is. You know what I mean? Proper fight, proper man that take lick. You understand? That could take lick and can fight. You know what I'm saying? So
call them man.
Like so, it was no mean feat, so to speak. But yeah, definitely for me, totally biased. Gotta own it. You understand? But in terms of his foot speed, his hand speed, his ability to have psychological warfare on a man and get in a person's head, and because boxing is like about 70% mental, his ability to even hypnotize his opponent and call the round, he's gonna knock them down. Yeah. But also his ability to hypnotize himself. When he knows that logically, I can't beat this kid George Foreman who's been banging people out into great men that I've struggled with. He's been creaming the floor with them in two, and I've been going 15 rounds. They've been brocking my jaw, and we've been going 2 for nail, and he's wiped the man out in like 6 minutes, in 3 minutes and stuff like that. And I'm supposed to beat him, and I'm a big man now, been out of shape, belly get a bit tubby, trying to make a comeback, trying to think, and this guy's in his physical prime. I'm not supposed to beat him, so logically he's not. His mind probably would have told him that, but his ego. You know what I'm saying? And his ability to improvise again, it allowed him to almost continuously say, repetitiously, create a mythos or create something where he had to live up to it so that he could step into that reality and then call it into existence and then make it happen kind of thing.
SubhanAllah. So coming to the end now, what would you say if I'm a young person coming up wanting to get into the boxing game and, you know, wanted to emulate Ali? I mean, obviously, will there ever be another one like him? That's another question. And secondly as well, what do you think was his greatest gift to boxing on a technical level? Was his greatest gift? And what do you think was his greatest gift to the world as a human being, as an exponent of the fine art of boxing?
Okay, I think his greatest gift as a boxer would have to be his,
his defining fight for you as well.
Foot speed, hand speed. Foot speed, hand speed, boxing ability. Very gifted fighter. In terms of what young people could learn from him, is his ability to be defiant. I think there's a picture of him with his mouth open. That's one picture, but I like the picture where he goes. Because there's black people, you know what I mean when you shove up him out, like he's just being indignatious. You know what I'm saying to you? Like his ability to actually believe in himself. So the biggest thing you got is your own mind, is your own confidence, your own self-belief that nobody can give to you, but that's what you have to develop for yourself. And his gift as a fighter was that he brought the razzmatazz, he brought the mainstream back to boxing and made boxing a glamorous sport.
Gorgeous George.
You understand?
I'm so pretty.
But he did learn it from Gorgeous George, but he developed it in his own unique way, his ability to talk and articulate and capture the public's imagination. Because before him, you weren't really seeing too many film stars and A-list at fights. Before Muhammad Ali, really ringside, he didn't make it. You know what I'm trying to say? But now there's a kind of standard thing of, Floyd's doing this thing with Pac-Man, you're going to see, Puffy there, or you're going to see a few A-list actors there, and Denzel, and different people. But that kind of evolved out of the Muhammad Ali era. He made boxing a glamorous, popular, I gotta be there type of sport. And his defining fight for me the textbooks will say it was a rumble in the jungle because he didn't want to
Aesthetic.
spoil the aesthetic. So on a level of being a fan of boxing, I would say that is the defining